The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday, addressed to Mrs. Linda Roberts, mother of the late groom. Not former mother-in-law. Not Linda. Mother of the late groom. As if Jason's death was my only identity now. I stood in my kitchen, holding the cream-colored envelope with trembling hands. 2 years. It had been 2 years since I buried my only son, and now his widow was getting married again. The invitation felt heavier than it should, like it was made of stone rather than paper. Ashley's handwriting sprawled across the back. You're still family to me. Please come. A. Still family. The words tasted bitter in my mouth.
Before I go on, you should know this isn't just a story about loss or betrayal. It's about a mother's love that reached beyond death and the truth my son left behind. If any part of this speaks to you, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to know what I found next, subscribe. This story is only beginning.
I set the invitation on the counter and stared at it. Ashley Mitchell was marrying Brad Coleman. I knew that name. Jason had mentioned him once, something about a tech conference, but the memory was fuzzy. What wasn't fuzzy was the memory of Ashley at Jason's funeral. Her body draped over his casket, wailing so loudly the funeral director had to intervene. My soulmate, my everything, she had screamed, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the polished wood. How am I supposed to live without him? I had held her then, my own grief momentarily set aside to comfort my daughter-in-law. She had sobbed into my shoulder, her tears soaking through my black dress. You're all I have left of him, Mom Linda. Promise you won't leave me too. I had promised. God help me. I had promised. After the funeral, Ashley became my shadow. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m., she would appear at my door with a bouquet of white lilies. Your favorite, she would say, placing them in the crystal vase Jason had bought me for Mother's Day 5 years ago. They weren't my favorite. I was allergic to lilies. Jason knew that. He would have known that. But I never corrected her. Grief makes us do strange things, accept strange things. She would sit in Jason's old spot on the couch, curl her feet under her the way he used to, and talk about him for hours. Sometimes she cried, sometimes she laughed, sharing memories I'd never heard. But always, she wore his wedding ring on her right hand, moved from her left after the funeral.
I can't bear to take it off, she'd told me once, twisting it around her finger. It's like he's still with me, you know? I knew. I wore his father's ring on a chain around my neck, hidden beneath my clothes. We all carry our dead in different ways. But something had been bothering me about Ashley's grief. It was too perfect, too performative. Her Instagram told a different story from the broken widow who cried in my living room. Posted between the "missing my angel" captions were photos of her at wine bars, laughing with friends, dressed in outfits that cost more than my monthly pension. When I'd asked her about it once, gently, she'd said, "Jason would want me to try to be happy, don't you think?" Maybe. But Jason would also want her to know his mother's actual favorite flowers. I picked up the invitation again, running my finger over the embossed letters. The wedding was in 3 weeks, at the Sentinel Hotel, Portland's most exclusive venue. How could she afford that? Jason's life insurance had gone to... Well, that was the thing. Ashley had been so strange about the insurance, never bringing it up directly but dancing around it in conversations. The funeral was so expensive, she'd mentioned once. I had to use all our savings. Such a shame Jason never got to cash in his startup equity. He worked so hard on that company. I might have to sell the house, she'd sighed, just last month. It's too expensive to maintain on my salary alone. Each comment had been followed by a pause, a glance in my direction, waiting for something. An offer to help? And revelation about money? I'd given her neither, just sympathetic nods and changed the subject. The truth was, I had been putting off dealing with Jason's room. It's that exactly as he'd left it when he'd last visited, a week before the accident. His laptop still on the desk, his college sweatshirt still draped over the chair, his scent still lingering in the fabric. But now, holding this invitation, something shifted in me. Maybe it was the formal coldness of being addressed as mother of the late groom. Maybe it was the realization that Ashley was moving on while I was still frozen in place. Or maybe it was just time.
I climbed the stairs to Jason's room and stood in the doorway. Afternoon light streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Everything was exactly as he'd left it, except for the thin layer of dust that covered every surface like a shroud. I started with the desk, sorting through old receipts and post-it notes covered in his terrible handwriting. Then the dresser, folding clothes that would eventually go to charity. I was reaching for a box on the top shelf of his closet when my hand hit something solid behind it. Metal. I pulled out a small safe I'd never seen before. My heart hammered as I sat on Jason's bed, the safe heavy in my lap. It was locked with a digital keypad. I tried his birthday. Nothing. My birthday? Nothing. Then, on instinct, I tried his father's death date. The lock clicked open. Inside were 3 things that would change everything. A thick envelope of insurance documents, a leather-bound journal, and a USB drive with a label that made my blood run cold. For Mom, important. If something happens to me, watch this first. My hands shook as I unfolded the insurance documents. Pacific Life Insurance. Policy amount, $5 million. My eyes scanned down to the beneficiary line, expecting to see Ashley's name. Beneficiary? Linda Marie Roberts. $5 million. Jason had a $5 million life insurance policy with me as the beneficiary, not his wife. Me. The policy date made me gasp. January 15th, 2022, 3 months before he died.
I set the papers aside and picked up the journal, flipping it open to the last entry, dated April 10th, 2022, the day before the accident. Mom, if you're reading this, then I was right to be paranoid. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Ashley doesn't know yet. I've already changed my insurance beneficiary to you. She never knew about this policy anyway. I bought it through my company, not our joint accounts. There are things you need to know, things I've discovered, things that make me fear for my safety. Watch the USB drive. Everything is on there. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you in person. I was trying to protect you from this mess. Take care of yourself. And whatever happens, don't let Ashley fool you. She's not who she pretends to be. Your son, Jason. I read the entry 3 times, my vision blurring with tears. Jason had been afraid. My son had been afraid for his life, and I hadn't known. He'd visited that last week, and I hadn't seen the fear in his eyes. What kind of mother doesn't see her child's fear? The USB drive felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds as I walked to my laptop. I inserted it with trembling fingers and clicked on the single file, mom_watchthis.mp4. Jason's face filled the screen. He was in his car, the camera propped on the dashboard. He looked tired, older than his 30 years, with dark circles under his eyes I now realized hadn't been from work stress. Mom, if you're watching this, something happened to me, and I need you to know it wasn't an accident. Jason's face on the screen blurred through my tears. I paused the video, unable to breathe. My baby boy. My sweet, trusting boy who still called me every Sunday and brought me tulips on my birthday, not lilies, never lilies, was telling me he'd been murdered. I pressed play with a trembling finger. Mom, I know this is hard to hear, but you need to know the truth about Ashley, about our marriage, about everything. He rubbed his face, and I noticed his wedding ring was already gone. It started 8 months ago. I came home early from a business trip. The Seattle conference got canceled last minute. I was excited to surprise Ashley. Instead, his voice cracked. Instead, I found her in our bed with Brad Coleman. Brad Coleman, the name on the wedding invitation. Ashley was marrying the man she'd cheated with. My stomach churned, and I had to pause the video again to run to the bathroom. I barely made it to the toilet before I vomited, my body rejecting this poison of truth as violently as my heart was. When I returned to the laptop, Jason's frozen face waited for me. My beautiful boy, trying to be strong while his world collapsed. I knew that look. It was the same one he'd worn when he told me about his father's diagnosis. Brave on the outside, shattered within. I hit play. I didn't confront her right away. I was in shock. I sat in my car for 3 hours, just processing. When I finally went inside, they were gone. Ashley acted normal at dinner, kissed me goodnight, told me she loved me. He laughed bitterly. I hired a private investigator the next day. Mom, what he found? The video cut to screenshots of text messages, credit card statements, hotel receipts. Jason's voice continued over the evidence. She'd been seeing Brad for over a year, since right after our first anniversary. The PI found out Brad promised to invest in her future business ventures when she was single and had capital. She'd been Googling my net worth, Mom. Screenshots of my company's valuation, estimates of my life insurance, though she didn't know about the real policy.
More screenshots. Ashley's search history made my blood run cold. How much is spouse entitled to in Oregon divorce? Startup equity division divorce. Accidental death insurance payout timeline. How to inherit if spouse dies without will. That last search was dated 2 months before Jason's accident. I was going to divorce her quietly, Jason continued, his face back on the screen. Just walk away. Let her have the house, split our assets. I didn't want drama. But then, he held up his phone to the camera. She found out I knew. I don't know how. Maybe the PI wasn't as discreet as promised, but 3 days ago she sent me these. He scrolled through messages. If you leave me, I'll destroy you. You think you're so smart? You have no idea what I'm capable of. I'll make sure you lose everything. Your company, your reputation, everything. You'll regret the day you met me. The last message, sent the morning of April 11th at 7:47 a.m. We need to talk. Meet me at Cornelius Pass Road at 8:30. Come alone or I'm calling your investors with some interesting information about your ethical business practices. Cornelius Pass Road, where Jason's car had gone off the cliff at 8:43 a.m. Mom, I'm recording this at 7:59 a.m. I'm not meeting her. I'm going straight to my lawyer to file for divorce and get a restraining order. I'm taking Highway 30 instead. She doesn't know that route. After the lawyer, I'm coming to you. We need to talk about everything. I love you so much. I should have told you sooner. I was just so ashamed that I'd been fooled, that I'd brought this monster into our family. The video ended. The timestamp showed 8:02 a.m., April 11th, 2022. 41 minutes before his death. I sat in the darkness of Jason's room, laptop closed, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. My boy, My precious boy had died afraid and alone, trying to protect me from the truth. He'd changed his route to avoid her, but somehow. With shaking hands, I Googled the accident report. I'd never been able to read it before, the pain too fresh. But now I needed to know. Single vehicle accident. 2019 Tesla Model 3 registered to Jason Roberts left roadway on Highway 30 at approximately 8:43 a.m. Vehicle traveled down embankment and struck tree. Driver pronounced dead at scene. No skid marks found. Speed at time of accident estimated at 75 miles per hour in 55 mile per hour zone. No mechanical failures detected. Toxicology negative for all substances. Witness reported seeing silver Audi SUV traveling at high speed in the same direction minutes before accident discovered. Silver Audi SUV. I knew that car. Ashley drove a silver Audi Q5.
But she'd been at the spa. She told everyone she was at the spa, getting a facial when the police called. The Serenity Spa in Northwest Portland, with her friend Claire. She'd even showed people the receipt. I opened Jason's journal, flipping through pages of evidence he'd collected. There, a photo of the Serenity Spa receipt. But something was wrong. The timestamp was smudged, barely legible. And in Jason's neat handwriting beside it, called spa, no record of appointment. Claire in Cabo that week. My son had known. He'd known she was planning something. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through Ashley's Instagram from that day. There it was, a selfie with a face mask, captioned Self-Care Sunday at Serenity Spa Portland. Perfect morning with @Claire_Matthews. Sometimes you just need to pamper yourself. #spa day, #self-love, #treat yourself. Posted at 11:47 a.m., after Jason was already dead. The comments below made me sick. Babe, this was from last week. I'm in Mexico. From Claire_Matthews. Ashley's reply. Oops, wrong pic. You know me, always mixing up my spa days. She'd posted an old photo, created a digital alibi after the fact, and everyone had believed her, because who suspects a grieving widow? I did. Now I did. I called Mike Turner, Jason's best friend since college. He answered on the second ring. Mrs. Roberts, is everything okay? Mike, I need to ask you something. Did Jason tell you about Ashley? About what was happening? Silence. Then a heavy sigh. He told me not to say anything. Made me promise. He's dead, Mike. He's dead and I just found... I couldn't finish. Oh God, you found the safe? You knew? He showed me the USB. Mrs. Roberts, I begged him to go to the police, but he said he didn't have enough proof. Said Ashley was too smart, covered her tracks too well. He was going to divorce her and disappear for a while, maybe stay with you. He said... Mike's voice broke. He said she'd never actually do anything. That she was all talk. She wasn't all talk. I know. God, I know. After the funeral, He paused. This is going to sound awful. Tell me. She hit on me. At the reception after the funeral. Said she was lonely, that I reminded him of Jason. Said grief made people do crazy things and wouldn't it be a comfort to each other? I was horrified. I left. But Mrs. Roberts, she didn't seem sad. She seemed calculating.
My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone.
Mike, did she know Jason changed his life insurance?
No, he did it through his company benefits. She had no access to that. He told me she'd been asking about insurance, though, dropping hints about bills and the mortgage. He let her think their original policy was all there was, the one for $500,000 they got when they married. $5 million versus $500,000. Ashley had killed my son for money she'd never get. Mike, I need copies of everything you have. Every text, every email, everything Jason told me. I'll bring it all tomorrow. Mrs. Roberts, are you going to the wedding? I looked at the invitation still lying on my kitchen counter. Oh yes, I wouldn't miss it for the world. After Mike hung up, I sat in the darkness, cradling Jason's journal. My tears had dried, replaced by something harder,
colder. Ashley Mitchell had taken my son from me. She'd played the grieving widow for 2 years, accepting my comfort, my love, my pity. She'd sat on Jason's spot on my couch and pretended to mourn him while wearing the ring of the man she'd murdered him for. But Jason had protected me even in death. $5 million. He'd made sure I'd be okay. More than okay. And now I was going to make sure Ashley got exactly what she deserved. I picked up the wedding invitation one more time. Mother of the late groom. She had no idea how much power those words were about to carry. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. Did you get the invitation? I really hope you'll come. It would mean the world to have Jason's mom there. You're my only connection to him now. I typed back, I wouldn't miss it for anything. Do you need any help with the arrangements? OMG, yes. Could we have lunch tomorrow? I have so much to tell you about Brad. I think Jason would have loved him. I stared at her message, bile rising in my throat. Jason would have loved him? The man who'd been sleeping with his wife? The man who'd helped dry him to his death? Of course, dear, I typed. Noon at Chez Louise? Perfect. Love you, Mom. Love. She dared to use that word, the word Jason had said to me in his final video, 41 minutes before she'd run him off the road.
I closed my eyes and saw my son's face. Not from the video, but from my memory. 6 years old, grinning with his first lost tooth. 16, proud in his cap and gown. 25, nervous before proposing to Ashley. 30, dead on Highway 30. I love you too, baby, I whispered to the darkness. And I promise she'll pay for what she did to you. The USB drive sat on my desk, a digital ghost containing my son's last words. Tomorrow I'd take it to Karen Price, my lawyer. We'd figure out what could be done legally. But tonight, I sat with my grief and my rage and my terrible, perfect knowledge. Ashley Mitchell thought she had gotten away with murder. She was wrong.
I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jason's Tesla tumbling down that embankment, heard the crush of metal against tree bark, imagined his final moments. Did he know it was her? Did he see the silver Audi in his rearview mirror before she ran him off the road? Did he think of me? By morning, I'd thrown up twice more and consumed an entire pot of coffee. My hands had finally stopped shaking, replaced by an eerie calm that scared me more than the trembling. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Hollow eyes, gray skin, grief etched into every line of my face. But beneath it all, something new. Purpose. Mike Turner arrived at 9 a.m. sharp with a banker's box full of evidence. Mrs. Roberts, you look... He trailed off. Like hell? I know. I led him to the kitchen table. Show me everything. For the next 2 hours, Mike laid out the case Jason had been building. Photos from the PI showing Ashley and Brad at hotels, restaurants, even at Jason and Ashley's own home when Jason was traveling. Bank statements showing suspicious withdrawals. Text messages between Ashley and her sister discussing the plan, though carefully worded to avoid specifics. This one made me sick, Mike said, sliding over a screenshot. It was from Ashley's sister, Brittany. Remember, you deserve to be happy, and you deserve everything you've worked for. Don't let guilt stop you. It's just business. Dated 1 week before Jason's death. Just business, I repeated, tasting acid. My son's life was just business? There's more, Mike said quietly. He pulled out a manila envelope. I didn't want to show you this, but you need to see it. Inside were photos from the accident scene, not official ones. These were taken by someone who'd driven by before the police closed the road. My baby's car, crumpled against a massive pine tree, the windshield shattered, and there, barely visible in one shot, skid marks. Not from Jason's car, but from another vehicle,
horizontal marks, as if someone had swerved into his lane. The police said there were no skid marks, I whispered. These were gone by the time they did the official investigation. It rained that afternoon, remember? But look at the timestamp on these photos. 9:15 a.m. This Good Samaritan posted them on Twitter asking if anyone needed help. I found them last month.
I touched the photo with one finger, tracing the marks that proved my son had tried to avoid his killer. He'd fought to live. He'd wanted to come home to me. Mike, will you testify if I can get the police to reopen the case? In a heartbeat, Jason was my brother. I should have done more when he was alive. We all should have, I said, my voice breaking. But we can do something now. At 11:30, I drove to Chez Louise, Portland's most pretentious French restaurant. Ashley's choice, of course. I'd changed into my nicest dress, applied makeup to hide my sleepless night, even worn the pearl necklace Jason had given me for my 55th birthday. If I was going to face my son's killer, I'd do it with dignity. Ashley was already there, seated at a prime window table, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I approached, and her face lit up with what anyone else would think was genuine joy. "Mom, Linda?" She stood and pulled me into a hug that made my skin crawl. She smelled like expensive perfume and lies. "You look wonderful." "Thank you, dear." I sat down, proud of how steady my voice sounded. "You look happy." "I am." She practically glowed, flashing the enormous diamond on her left hand. "I never thought I'd find love again after—" She faced crumpled into practiced sorrow. "After losing Jason. But Brad, he's been so patient, so understanding. He knew Jason, from the tech world. He says Jason would want me to be happy." The waiter appeared, and Ashley ordered champagne. "We're celebrating," she told him with a giggle that belonged to a woman half her age. When he left, she leaned forward conspiratorially. "I have to tell you something. Brad is, well, he's very successful. The wedding is going to be quite the event. 300 guests, the Sentinel Hotel, a string quartet." "How wonderful," I managed. "That must be expensive." Something flickered in her eyes. "Well, yes, Brad's covering most of it, of course. But—" She twisted Jason's ring on her right hand. "I was hoping maybe you could contribute. I know Jason would have wanted me to give me the wedding of my dreams." There it was, the ask. 2 years of playing the grieving widow, and it all came down to this: money. "Of course," I said, watching her eyes light up. "Jason would have wanted that. How much were you thinking?" "Well, the flowers alone are $15,000, and I thought maybe you could cover that, as a memorial to Jason. We could even use his favorite flowers." "Lilies?" I suggested innocently. "Yes, white lilies everywhere." I smiled, though it felt like my face might crack. Actually, Jason's favorite flowers were sunflowers. He was allergic to lilies.
The briefest flash of irritation crossed her face before she recovered. "Oh, of course. I meant, for my bouquet, Jason loved buying me lilies." "No, he didn't. He bought them once for her office, not knowing she'd bring them home where they'd make me sneeze through dinner. He'd been mortified when he found out." "About the money," Ashley continued, apparently deciding to skip the pretense. "I know this might be awkward, but I've been struggling financially since Jason passed. The house payments, the car, living expenses. I never wanted to burden you, but if Jason had any other accounts, any insurance policies I might not have known about." There it was. Fishing. She was actually fishing for the $5 million she'd killed him for. "I'm afraid not, dear," I lied smoothly. "Just the policy you already received. Times have been tight for me, too." Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Oh,
Of course. I just thought with his company doing so well. His shares went to the other partners when he died. It was in the founding agreement. Another lie. I'd inherited those too, another gift from my forward-thinking son. Ashley's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. Then she was back to playing the devoted daughter-in-law. Well, anything you can contribute would be wonderful. You're like a mother to me. And you're like the daughter I never had, I replied, matching her false sincerity. Tell me about Brad. How did you reconnect? She launched into a rehearsed story about running into him at a grief support group, a lie, according to Mike's evidence, which showed they'd never stopped seeing each other. As she talked, I studied her. Pretty, yes. Charming, certainly. But now I could see what Jason had finally seen, the calculating coldness behind the warm brown eyes, the predatory way she assessed everything for its value. And he proposed at the same restaurant where Jason proposed to me. It felt like a sign, like Jason was giving us his blessing. I wanted to throw my water in her face. Instead, I smiled. How romantic. And you're keeping Jason's last name? Oh, yes. I'll be Ashley Mitchell Coleman. I could never give up Jason's name. It's all I have left of him. She dabbed at her eyes, though they remained perfectly dry. That and his ring, I noted, gesturing to her right hand.
She twisted it again, a nervous habit I'd noticed. I'll never take it off. Even Brad understands. He says it's beautiful how I honored Jason's memory. Speaking of Brad, I said carefully, I'd love to meet him properly before the wedding. Could we perhaps have dinner, the three of us? Oh, he'd love that, Ashley exclaimed. How about this weekend, Saturday? Perfect. My house? I'll cook Jason's favorite meal. Her eye twitched. She didn't know Jason's favorite meal. That sounds wonderful. The rest of lunch passed in a blur of wedding details and false pleasantries. Ashley showed me Pinterest boards full of elaborate flower arrangements and table settings, each more expensive than the last. She casually mentioned costs, obviously hoping I'd offer to cover more than just the flowers. I made appropriate noises, but committed to nothing beyond the original $15,000. As we waited for the check, Ashley's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled. Brad, he's so attentive. She typed a quick response, and I caught a glimpse of the message. Almost done. She's good for $15K. She's good for $15K? Like I was an ATM, not the mother of the man she'd murdered. I should go, I said, standing. Thank you for lunch. Thank you for coming, and for the flowers. Jason would be so touched. She hugged me again, and I forced myself not to recoil. I love you, Mom. I love you too. I lied, the words ash in my mouth. I made it to my car before the tears came. Not sad tears, angry ones. She sat there in her designer dress with her massive ring, spending Brad's money and asking for mine while my Jason lay in the ground. She'd taken my baby and now wanted me to pay for her celebration. But I would not break. Not yet. That afternoon, I met with Karen Price at her law office. Karen had been my friend since our kids were in elementary school together. She was also one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Portland, though today I needed her for a different kind of justice. I showed her everything: the USB, the journal, Mike's evidence, the photos of the skid marks. She reviewed it all with the sharp eyes that had made her legendary in courtrooms. Linda, she said finally, this is compelling, but it's all circumstantial. The affair, the money motive, even the threatening texts. A good defense attorney could explain it all away. And these photos of skid marks, without official documentation, they're just pictures. We need more. What kind of more? A confession would be ideal, or proof she was on that road when she claimed to be at the spa. Security footage, traffic cameras, witness testimony. The spa appointment was fake. She posted an old photo. Can we prove it's old? I thought hard. Maybe. let me check something. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through Ashley's Instagram history. There, 3 months before Jason's death, a photo of her and Claire at someone's birthday party. Same nail polish, same bracelet as in the supposed spa day photo. Look at this. Karen examined both photos. Good catch, but we need more. Linda, what's your goal here? Do you want her arrested or... I want her exposed, I said firmly. I want everyone at that wedding to know what she did. I want Brad to know he's marrying a murderer. I want her to lose everything, the way she took everything from me. Karen leaned back. That's dangerous territory. If you publicly accuse her without proof, she could sue you for defamation. What if I don't accuse her? What if I just present Jason's own words, show his video? That's different. You'd be sharing your son's concerns, not making accusations yourself. Karen smiled slowly, and if she happens to react badly in front of 300 witnesses... Exactly. We spent the next 2 hours planning. Karen would help me protect my assets, the $5 million, the company shares, everything Jason had left me. She'd also reach out to contacts in the DA's office, see if they'd review the case with the new evidence. But the wedding? That was my arena. Be careful, Karen warned as I left. Cornered animals are dangerous. If Ashley suspects you know, she won't, I assured her. I've gotten very good at pretending. That evening, I sat in Jason's room again, holding his journal. I'd read every entry now, watched every video on the USB. My son had been meticulous in documenting his marriage's destruction. But one entry stood out, written just a week before his death. Mom's birthday is coming up. I ordered her sunflowers from that farm she loves. 2 dozen, delivered. I hope I'm around to see her face when she gets them. If I'm not, I hope she knows they're from me, that everything I've done is for her. She deserves to be happy and safe. She deserves better than the family I've brought into her life.
I closed the journal and looked at the framed photo on his desk. Jason and me at his college graduation, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember now. We looked so happy, so unaware of what was coming. I know, baby, I whispered to the photo. I know everything you did was for me. Now it's my turn to do something for you. My phone buzzed. Ashley again. Can't wait for Saturday. Brad's excited to meet Jason's wonderful mom properly. Should we bring anything? I typed back, just yourselves, looking forward to it. Saturday. 3 days to prepare for dinner with my son's killer and her accomplice. 3 days to perfect my mask of ignorance. 3 days to plan how to serve justice alongside Jason's favorite meal. Ashley thought she was coming to dinner with a grieving, gullible old woman. She had no idea she was walking into the home of a mother who discovered the truth. A mother with $5 million and nothing left to lose. I looked at Jason's photo one more time. Just a little longer, sweetheart. Mom's got this.
3 weeks passed in a blur of preparations. The dinner with Ashley and Brad had been excruciating. Watching him fawn over her, seeing her play the devoted fiancé while wearing my dead son's ring like a trophy. Brad Coleman was everything Jason wasn't. Loud, arrogant, dripping with new money confidence. He'd spent the entire dinner talking about his tech company's IPO, their new house in the West Hills, the Tesla he'd bought Ashley to replace her Audi. Traded it in last month, Ashley had said when I asked about her silver Q5. Too many memories. Yes, I thought, like running my son off the road. But I'd smiled and served Jason's favorite pot roast, which Ashley pretended to remember, and played the role of the grateful mother-in-law, honored to be included in their happiness. When they left, Brad had slipped me a check. For your contribution to the wedding, he'd said with a patronizing smile. Ashley says times have been tough. No need to strain yourself. The check was for exactly the amount Ashley had requested for flowers. I'd wanted to tear it up in his face.
Instead, I'd thanked him and promised to be at the wedding early to help with preparations. Now, the day had arrived. March 15th, the Ides of March. How fitting. I stood in my bedroom at 4 a.m., unable to sleep, staring at the dress I'd chosen. Not black, too obvious. Instead, a deep navy blue that looked almost festive but could pass for mourning in the right light. Jason had helped me pick it out for his company's gala 2 years ago. "You look beautiful, Mom," he'd said, "like a queen." Today, I'd be a different kind of queen, one serving a very cold dish. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Karen Price. She'd been trying to talk me out of my plan all week, warning me about legal consequences, begging me to wait for the police investigation. But the detective assigned to review Jason's case had already warned us it could take months, maybe years, to build enough evidence for charges. I didn't have months. Ashley was about to legally bind herself to another man, start a new life built on my son's bones. She'd stand before God and witnesses and promise to love and cherish, wearing white like she hadn't stained her hands with blood. Not on my watch. I arrived at the Sentinel Hotel at noon, 5 hours before the ceremony. The place was a flurry of activity. Florists arranging elaborate centerpieces, staff setting up tables in the grand ballroom, a string quartet practicing in the corner. And everywhere, white lilies. The flowers that made me sneeze, that Jason was allergic to, that Ashley knew perfectly well were not my favorites. "Mom Linda!" Ashley appeared in a silk robe, hair in curlers, makeup half done. "You're early." "I wanted to help," I said, air kissing her cheek to avoid actual contact. "The flowers are beautiful." "Aren't they?" Brad insisted on the best. She grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in slightly. "Come see my dress." She dragged me to the bridal suite where her entourage was gathered. Her sister Brittany, 3 bridesmaids I didn't recognize, and her mother, a woman who looked like an older, harder version of Ashley.
"This is Jason's mother," Ashley announced, and I caught the slight emphasis on Jason, reminding everyone of her tragic first marriage, establishing her victim credentials. The women cooed sympathetically at me while Ashley disappeared behind a screen. When she emerged in her wedding dress, I had to grip the champagne flute someone had handed me to keep from throwing it. The dress was identical to the one she'd worn to marry Jason. Not similar, identical. Same designer, same cut, same beading. The only difference was the size. She'd gained a few pounds on Brad's restaurant budget. "What do you think?" she asked, spinning. "I know it might seem strange, but I wanted to honor Jason. Wearing the same dress feels like he's here with me." Her bridesmaids made appropriate noises about how beautiful and meaningful it was. I stared at her, this woman who'd killed my son now literally wearing the dress he'd watched her walk down the aisle in, and felt something inside me turn to ice. "It's perfect," I said. "Jason would be so touched." She beamed and went to adjust her veil, also the same one. I excused myself to the bathroom and dry heaved over the toilet. When I emerged, I nearly collided with Mike Turner in the hallway. "Mrs. Roberts, I didn't know you were coming." "She invited me. I couldn't miss it." I looked at him closely. "Why are you here?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Brad invited a bunch of people from the tech scene. Good networking, you know? I wasn't going to come, but..." He lowered his voice. "I wanted to see if she'd really go through with it. Marrying him. After everything?" "She's wearing the same dress," I whispered. Mike's face went pale. "Jesus." "Mike, I need you to do something for me." I pulled him further from the bridal suite. "At the reception, there's going to be an open mic for toasts. When I go up, I need you to make sure the AV system is working perfectly. Can you do that?" He studied my face. "Mrs. Roberts, what are you planning?" "Justice. The kind Jason deserves." "I could lose my job if this goes wrong. Brad's company is a major client." "Then I'll hire you with my $5 million.
His eyes widened. You got the insurance? Every penny she thought she was killing him for. I gripped his arm. Please, Mike, for Jason. He nodded slowly. The AV tech is a friend. I'll make sure everything's working. The next 3 hours crawled by. I helped arrange place cards, adjusted centerpieces, smiled at arriving guests, the groom's side filled with tech executives and their trophy wives. The bride's side was sparser. Some colleagues from the marketing firm where Ashley worked, distant relatives, a few couples from their neighborhood. I noticed Claire Matthews, the alibi friend, wasn't in the wedding party. When I asked Ashley about it, she waved dismissively. We had a falling out. She became very judgmental about Brad and me, said it was too soon after Jason. She rolled her eyes, as if there's a timeline for finding love again.
2 years. It had been 2 years since she'd murdered my son, and she thought that was plenty of time. The ceremony was set for 5 p.m. At 4:30, I took my seat, not in the front row with family, but in the third row, behind Brad's business partners. Ashley's mother sat in the front, holding a tissue she'd never need. The string quartet played something that was supposed to be moving, but sounded like funeral music to my ears. Brad appeared at the altar, preening in his expensive tuxedo. He caught my eye and winked, like we were conspirators in Ashley's happiness. I smiled back and touched my purse, feeling the USB drive inside. Soon. The music changed to the wedding march. Everyone stood and turned, and there she was, Ashley Mitchell, walking down the aisle in my murdered son's wife's dress, holding a bouquet of lilies that would have made him sneeze, smiling like she'd won the lottery, which, in her mind, she had. First Jason's supposed insurance, now Brad's tech money. The perfect crime, the perfect ending. The ceremony was mercifully short. Generic vows about love and commitment that made me want to scream. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Not yet. Not yet. You may kiss the bride. The room erupted in applause as Brad and Ashley kissed. She turned to face the crowd, triumphant, and our eyes met. For just a second, I let her see the truth. That I knew, that I'd always known. Her smile faltered slightly before she recovered, probably dismissing it as her imagination. The cocktail hour was held on the terrace while staff transformed the ceremony space for the reception. I mingled carefully, introducing myself to Brad's colleagues, his investors, the society photographers covering the event. I wanted them all to remember me. The sweet mother-in-law who'd lost her son so tragically. You must be so happy for Ashley, finding love again after such a tragedy. Oh yes, I agreed, though I do miss my son terribly. He died so suddenly, so young, just 30 years old. How awful. What happened? Car accident. He was on his way to see me, actually. The police said he lost control, but I let it hang. Looking troubled. But, she prompted, leaning in. Oh, nothing. I shouldn't speculate. It's just that Jason was such a careful driver, and there were some concerns before he died. Concerns? I glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers. He was planning to divorce Ashley, had evidence of, well, I shouldn't say. This is her wedding day.
The woman's eyes went wide. I excused myself before she could ask more questions, knowing the gossip would spread like wildfire through the crowd. By the time we sat for dinner, whispers would be circulating. The reception ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, gold chargers, those damn lilies everywhere. I was seated at table 12, the social Siberia near the kitchen doors, with other distant relatives and obligation invites. Perfect. I wanted to be forgotten until the moment I stood up. Dinner was served, filet mignon that tasted like cardboard in my mouth. I pushed it around my plate and watched the head table, where Ashley played the glowing bride. She changed into a reception dress, also white, also expensive, also an insult to my son's memory.
The toasts began with Brad's best man, a fraternity brother, who told embarrassing stories about their college days. Then Ashley's sister, Brittany, who gave a speech about second chances at love that made me grip my knife so hard my knuckles went white. Brad's business partner, Ashley's boss. On and on, a parade of people celebrating this union built on blood. Finally, the DJ announced open mic toasts. This was it. I stood, smoothing my dress, and walked to the microphone. The room quieted as people recognized me. At the head table, Ashley's smile froze. "Good evening," I began, my voice steady despite my hammering heart. "I'm Linda Roberts. For those who don't know me, I'm Jason's mother, Ashley's first husband." Sympathetic murmurs rippled through the crowd. Ashley probably thought I was about to give some touching speech about moving on. I want to thank Ashley for inviting me today. It means so much to be included, especially since... I paused, letting emotion creep into my voice. Especially since Jason couldn't be here. He loved Ashley so much, right up until the end. I pulled out my phone, making a show of fumbling with it like a technologically challenged older woman. In fact, I have something Jason wanted me to share. He made this video for Ashley, but never got the chance to give it to her. He recorded it the morning he died. Ashley's face went white. She started to stand, but Brad put a hand on her arm, curious about this sentimental gift from beyond the grave. "Mike, could you help me with the screen?" I called out. Mike appeared at the AV station. Within seconds, the massive projection screens around the ballroom flickered to life. Jason's face appeared larger than life, sitting in his car. "Mom, if you're watching this, something happened to me, and I need you to know it wasn't an accident." The room went absolutely still. On screen, Jason continued, "But more importantly, people need to know the truth about my wife, about Ashley." "Turn it off!" Ashley shrieked, but Mike had locked the system. The video continued rolling. Jason's evidence filled the screens. The affair with Brad, the photos, the receipts, the text messages. His voice, calm and methodical, explaining how his wife and her lover had conspired against him. The Google searches about inheritance, about accidental death, about insurance payouts.
"I'm filing for divorce today," Jason's video continued. "April 11th, 2022. I'm going to see my lawyer, then my mom. I'm taking Highway 30 to avoid Ashley. She demanded I meet her on Cornelius Pass Road. I don't know what she's planning, but I'm scared." I watched Ashley's face as the timestamp appeared. 8:02 a.m., 41 minutes before his death. But Jason wasn't done. "If something happens to me, please know it wasn't suicide. It wasn't an accident. I have everything to live for. A mother I love, a company I built, a future free from this toxic marriage. Ashley, if you're watching this, I want you to know, I changed my insurance. You'll get nothing. The $5 million goes to my mom. You killed me for nothing." The video ended. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, chaos erupted. "Lies!" Ashley screamed, standing so fast her chair toppled. "This is fake! She made this up! She's trying to destroy me!" But the timestamp was real. The evidence was real, and everyone could see it. Brad stood slowly, his face a mask of shock and rage. "You were sleeping with me while married to him. You said you were separated." "Baby, I can explain." "And the insurance? $5 million? You told me he left you nothing." Ashley turned on me, her beautiful face twisted with fury. "You bitter old bitch! You've been planning this. You've been waiting." "Actually," I said into the microphone, my voice carrying over the pandemonium, "I've been mourning. Mourning my son who died fleeing from you, who changed his route to avoid you, who was so scared of what you might do that he made that video. You can't prove anything," she snarled. "I don't have to. Jason proved it all." I looked around the room at the horrified faces, the phones already out recording. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to disrupt this celebration, but I couldn't let my son's killer remarry without the truth being known. Oh, and Ashley, that $5 million you murdered him for, I'm donating every penny to the Jason Roberts Truth Foundation, supporting victims of domestic violence and fraud, because that's what you are, a fraudster and a killer. Security guards appeared, moving toward the head table, but they weren't coming for me. Someone had called 911 reporting the video evidence of a potential murder. Ashley tried to run, but her elaborate dress and heels betrayed her. She stumbled, falling hard, her bouquet of lilies scattering across the floor. Brad backed away from her like she was contagious. "Don't touch me," he shouted when she reached for him. "My God, I almost married a murderer." "I'm not a murderer," Ashley shrieked, mascara running down her face. "He killed himself. He drove off that road himself. I wasn't even there." "But you were," I said quietly, and somehow everyone heard me. "Your Audi was seen on Highway 30 that morning. You followed him when he didn't take Cornelius Pass Road. You ran him off the road because you couldn't let him divorce you before you got his money." "Prove it," she spat. "The police will. They're reopening the case. New evidence has come to light. Traffic cameras, witness statements. Did you know the Tesla's computer records the last 30 minutes before impact, including other vehicles that come too close?"
That was a lie. But Ashley didn't know that. Her face crumpled. I didn't mean, she started, then caught herself. "I want a lawyer." "Good idea," I said. "You'll need one." The police arrived then, uniformed officers who took in the scene. The bride in her ruined dress, the screens still showing Jason's evidence, the hundreds of witnesses. They didn't arrest her. Not yet. But they took her in for questioning. Brad went too, suddenly eager to cooperate, to distance himself from the woman he'd almost married. As they led Ashley out, she turned back to look at me. The mask was completely gone now. This was the real Ashley. Cold, calculating, furious at being caught. "You've ruined everything," she hissed. "No, dear," I replied. "You ruined everything when you killed my son. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." The wedding that had cost over $200,000 ended in chaos. Guests fled, the string quartet packed up, the elaborate cake went uncut. But I stayed, sitting alone at table 12, finally able to breathe. Mike found me there an hour later. "Mrs. Roberts, are you okay?" You know what Jason's actual favorite flowers were?" I asked, staring at the wilting lilies. "Sunflowers. He loved sunflowers. Said they always faced the light, always found something to be happy about. He was a good man." "Yes, he was." I stood, suddenly exhausted. "Thank you, Mike, for everything. What will you do now?" I thought about it. The insurance money would be donated, as promised, but I still had Jason's shares, still had my house, still had a life to live. "I'm going to plant sunflowers. A whole garden of them. Jason would like that." As I walked out of the Sentinel Hotel, past the abandoned wedding gifts and scattered lily petals, I felt Jason with me. Not his ghost. I didn't believe in such things, but his love, his strength, his determination to protect me even after death. "We did it, baby," I whispered to the night air. "She'll never hurt anyone again." In my purse, my phone buzzed with messages from reporters, from police, from people who'd seen the viral videos already spreading online. Tomorrow, Ashley Mitchell would be famous, but not the way she'd wanted. She'd be the Black Widow bride, the woman who killed for money she'd never get. But tonight, I was going home, to Jason's room, to his photos, to tell him that his mother had kept her promise. Justice served cold at a wedding reception with a side of white lilies. The next morning, I woke to 247 missed calls and my doorbell ringing nonstop.
Through the peephole, I saw news vans lining my quiet street like vultures circling Carrion. But I wasn't Carrion. For the first time in 2 years, I felt alive. Karen Price arrived at 7 a.m. with coffee and a grim smile. Well, you certainly made the evening news. Ashley's video confession at the wedding is everywhere. Hashtag Justice for Jason is trending nationally. Confession? I took the coffee gratefully. When she screamed, "He killed himself! He drove off that road himself! I wasn't even there!" That's being interpreted as admission she knew he was driven off the road. Her lawyer's having fits. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Jason had told me about proposing to Ashley 5 years ago. How young and hopeful he'd looked then. How wrong we'd both been about her. The DA called, Karen continued. With the video evidence and public pressure, they're fast-tracking the investigation. Ashley's being held on suspicion of murder. Brad Coleman's already given a statement about their affair timeline. He threw her under the bus that quickly? Self-preservation. His company's stock dropped 12% overnight. He's claiming he was another victim of her deception. Karen paused. Linda, you know she might not be convicted, right? The evidence is still largely circumstantial. I sipped my coffee, surprisingly at peace. She's already been convicted in the court of public opinion. She'll never have the life she murdered Jason for. No rich husband, no social status, no $5 million. She'll always be the woman who killed her husband for money she didn't get. That's a life sentence of its own. By noon, Ashley's mugshot was everywhere. No makeup, no designer dress, just a hollow-eyed woman facing the consequences. Her sister Brittany sold her story to the tabloids within hours, revealing Ashley had talked about Jason's insurance obsessively, had practiced crying in the mirror, had called her marriage an investment that needs to pay off. Mike Turner called that afternoon. Mrs. Roberts, I thought you should know. I went to Jason's grave this morning to pay my respects. It was covered in sunflowers, hundreds of them. People who never even knew him are leaving them with notes about justice and truth. I broke down then, sobbing into the phone. My baby was gone, would always be gone. But he wasn't forgotten. He wasn't just Ashley Mitchell's victim anymore. He was Jason Roberts, the son who protected his mother from beyond the grave, whose story was saving other potential victims.
3 days later, I held a press conference at Karen's office, not for fame, but because Jason's story needed telling properly. I wore the navy dress and his father's ring on my necklace. My son was murdered for money, I began, looking directly into the cameras. But his death won't be meaningless. The Jason Roberts Truth Foundation will provide resources for those trapped in deceptive relationships, those who suspect their partners of financial exploitation, those who fear for their lives but don't know where to turn. Mrs. Roberts, a reporter called out, do you regret exposing Ashley at her wedding? I thought of Jason's video, his frightened face, his careful documentation. My only regret is not seeing the truth sooner. We teach our children to trust, to love, to believe in others. We don't teach them that sometimes the people who claim to love them are calculating their worth in dollars. That needs to change. What would you say to Ashley Mitchell? Nothing. She's had my last word. My words now are for the living. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. Love shouldn't make you feel afraid. Marriage shouldn't feel like a business transaction. And always, always make sure your important documents are somewhere safe, where someone you trust completely can find them. 2 months later, Ashley was formally charged with vehicular homicide, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. The trial would take another year, but she'd already lost everything that mattered to her. Brad, his money, her reputation, her freedom. I used Jason's company shares to fund the foundation properly. We created an app where people could secretly document concerning behavior, store evidence safely, and connect with resources. In the first month, we helped extract 17 people from dangerous situations. You're saving lives, Karen told me as we reviewed the foundation's impact. Jason would be so proud.
On what would have been Jason's 32nd birthday, I stood in my backyard, surrounded by towering sunflowers. Mike was there, and Karen, and dozens of people who'd been helped by the foundation. Even Claire Matthews came, tearfully apologizing for not seeing through Ashley sooner. "I want to share something," I said, holding up a letter. "Jason wrote this for his future children in case something happened to him. I found it in his safe." I read aloud. "To my children, if you're reading this without me there, know that love is the greatest gift we can give or receive. But also, know that love without respect is manipulation. Love without trust is control. Love without honesty is destruction. Choose partners who make you feel stronger, not smaller. Who celebrate your success, not calculate its worth to them. Who would protect you, not profit from you. Your grandmother will teach you these things better than I ever could. Trust her. She's the strongest person I know." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. As people mingled, sharing their stories, I felt a strange peace. Jason was gone. Nothing would bring him back. But his death had exposed a predator, saved potential victims, and created a legacy of protection for the vulnerable. Ashley Mitchell had killed for $5 million she'd never see. Instead, that money now protected people like Jason, people whose partners saw them as opportunities rather than human beings. She'd stolen my son, but given birth to a movement. That night, I sat in Jason's room one last time. Tomorrow, I would finally pack it up, donate his clothes, transform it into an office for the foundation. But tonight, I wanted to tell him one more thing. "We won, baby," I whispered to his photo. "Not the way we wanted, not the way that brings you back, but Ashley will never hurt anyone again, and your story will save others. You protected me even in death. Now I'll protect others in your name." The last white lily from Ashley's wedding bouquet sat withered in a vase on his desk. I'd kept one as evidence. Next to it bloomed a bright sunflower from my garden, face turned toward the window, toward the light, toward tomorrow. Some people kill for money. Others die protecting love. Jason chose love. In the end, love won. And somewhere in heaven, I knew my son was finally, truly at peace.